flyover, that pretty well indicated there were none. Once I was on the ground, I did a walking recon just to make sure. It was very obvious to me that everybody died instantly.
Good evening, everybody. It's 11 o'clock, and a summer holiday at the Grand Canyon ended in disaster today. An airplane and a helicopter collided over the canyon this morning. There were 20 people on board the plane, 6 people on board the helicopter. The crash happened a few miles from the South Rim over the Colorado River, a spot called Crystal Rapids. People who saw the collision say the helicopter sheared off the plane's tail section. The airplane burst into flames and went down. Both aircraft burned. Federal authorities are looking for causes tonight, but other pilots guess one of the 2 aircraft had given a false altitude reading, since they're not supposed to fly below the rim of the canyon, but commonly do. The tiny Arizona town that sits on the South Rim exists on tourists. The people who live there were badly shaken by the news of the crash. News 8's Lennon Ozizwe is in Arizona and filed this report.
The flag was flying at half-staff at the fast food store. It was the crew's idea of paying respect.
Everybody's bumming. Everybody is. The people over at Food Mart, everybody at the trading post, at the tourist center, everybody, they're pretty bummed. When it comes to something like this, people kind of knit together a little bit.
And just down the road, another flag was lowered at the village store.
It's a terrible loss. You know, it's hard to explain how you feel when you lose someone. I guess everybody lost somebody, and everybody knows basically how it would feel. And that's how we all feel here.
George Wilson knew all 3 of the killed pilots. Just about everyone knew each other in a community that worked the tourist trade and pretty much stuck together. How is it possible to cope with such a tragedy?
We just start talking about it.
As some locals grieve in private, many tourists are unaware of the tragedy.
It's shocking to me, and I just heard it now. You know, I was up there all day, never heard about it. You know?
It was a Grand Canyon Airlines plane just like this one involved in the accident. And while the airline has stopped down for the day, other airlines are operating out of this airport business as usual.
The skies are as safe as usual. Definitely it's a pilot error. One of the pilots must not give the right position report wherever he was, or he gave a wrong position report, or he did not give a position report.
The flights over the Grand Canyon had been under attack before the collision because of environmental reasons, an argument that's sure to be fueled now by emotional ones. Lennon Ozizwe, News 8, the Grand Canyon.
In fact, little or no time passed between the air disaster and renewed pleas to reduce the number of aircraft flying over the Grand Canyon. Right now, there's an average of 274 flights a day. Hikers who go into the Grand Canyon for serenity say it's impossible to find when they're constantly being buzzed by noisy aircraft. As can be expected, people who oppose the flights are using the crash to illustrate their point that there are simply too many flights.
We hope that if nothing else, this tragedy will inspire them to take some action that will really protect the park and prevent this kind of thing from happening ever again.
There have been studies, commissions, reports, but over the years, little action. The flights are popular among certain tourists, and they are profitable. 400,000 people are expected to fly the canyon before the end of the year.
Scott Doherty is free tonight. The San Diego teenager spent 3 days in a South African prison, the same prison where South African civil rights leader Joseph Mandela is reportedly held. Doherty is expected home within a week, and his family will be happy to see him walk through that door. Wayne Doherty first heard about his son's release from the State Department, and shortly after got to speak to his son by phone from Cape Town.
Sounds fine, like the old Scott. Apparently no ill effects from his stay in prison.
Scott Doherty's stay in prison began 3 days ago when he was arrested with 250 other people during a church service. South African police decided it was an unlawful assembly, and everyone, including children, was arrested. Doherty's American citizenship helped him win a quick release.
We still don't know what the situation is with the other parishioners. The adults, they released the children, but the adults presumably are still in prison.
Because of South Africa's state of emergency and to avoid further risks, Doherty has been asked not to speak to reporters while he's still in South Africa. He is a young man who went to observe the situation and became part of it.
It would be my hope that the enormous concern and support that many people have shown over the last few days for Scott might well be transferred to the to the general tragedy in South Africa.
And that may be happening. The concern was heard tonight at a meeting of the County Board of Supervisors.
This is a very important issue to me personally.
Supervisor Leon Williams led a motion to recommend the county's retirement fund divest from companies doing business in South Africa. The motion passed unanimously. The Board of Supervisors made the same recommendation last year. The Retirement Board did not choose to divest then. The county currently has $90 million invested in companies doing business in South Africa.
American victims in faraway lands, a much too familiar story, but there's hope for some tonight. For victims of the Achille Lauro hijacking, that justice may be possible. A trial began today in Genoa, Italy. 15 Palestinians are accused of hijacking and murder. Only 5 of them are actually in custody. One of them, Majiv Malki, is charged with killing Leon Klinghoffer. Still at large, Abul Abbas, the alleged mastermind of the kidnapping. The trial is expected to last months. Meanwhile, the Achille Lauro sailed again today, this time heading west towards Spain. Hundreds of J. David investors will be affected by a trial that began in El Cajon today. 5 investors are suing an accounting company and a law firm that worked for J. David. They want to recover $575,000 lost in the collapse. Their attorneys say the defendants should have seen the collapse coming.
It was impossible for them to be so close to the scene and not understand it.
It wasn't obvious to the FBI, wasn't obvious to the Department of Corporations, wasn't obvious to the SEC.
When the trial is over months from now, it will set precedent for another 300 lawsuits against J. David. San Diego police are trying to recover cars stolen in the last few weeks. The victims, women in shopping centers. The suspect drove off with 3 cars in less than an hour yesterday. He walked up to a woman in Mira Mesa, said her car was leaking gas, and took off with it. The next stop was Kearny Mesa. He stole a car the same way. Finally, in La Mesa, another shopping center, another stolen car. Police tonight are looking for a tan Mercury Topaz, California license 1 NFV 452.
Police in Burbank are also looking for a car thief, but this one works a little bit differently. A man was cleaning his car at one of those do-it-yourself car washes. His keys were in the ignition. A thief suddenly appeared. He jumped into the passenger side, scooted over, and took off. His last words to the owner, "Nice car you got there, mister."
Before it's too late. Watch for the telltale signs of corruption. The minute your son leaves the house, does he rebuckle his knickerbockers below the knee?
You are advised to throw them away, not to take any of the capsules. Bristol-Myers and the FDA have ordered a recall because a second bottle has turned up with cyanide in it. It belonged to a man who died in Auburn, Washington earlier this month. His death is the second attributed to extra-strength Excedrin capsules laced with cyanide. Baby Nikki is being prepared for a second heart transplant. Another donor heart was just flown in to the Loma Linda Medical Center. A heart baby Nikki received last night failed 3 hours later. He's being kept alive on a heart and lung machine. The new heart is donated by a 6-year-old Colorado boy who was accidentally shot by his young playmate.
Signs of summer are all here in San Diego. The most obvious one is a lack of parking spaces at the beaches. Clearly, school is out, as the song goes, for the summer.
What's the best thing about summer?
The girls.
Just being out of school.
Laying on the beach.
Didn't take long for yesterday's students to change from their school clothes into more skimpy apparel, and it probably took less time than that to replace the math books with the latest in surfing news. To be 18 or younger again. No need to count the days until summer is here if you consider the weather. Tomorrow you can work on the tan. Maybe you started today if you were lucky enough to be outdoors, and the beach may be the best place. Be a little patient. The sun will surface from behind the clouds by mid-morning. On the sand, it'll be about 75 degrees. In the water, a nice 67. If you're sunning inland, make sure there is shade nearby for relief from even warmer temperatures.
Added a new pet to the menagerie at his San Fernando Valley estate, but he's having a bit of trouble with it. The new addition is an 8-foot-tall baby giraffe. The state says the pen the singer has set aside for the animal isn't big enough. So
good night.